So time boxes control the amount of effort, that's work effort, and the time taken to complete a piece of work. This will of course mean creating a product of some sort while maximising the effort effectiveness. And this is an important point. Because of the empowered team and with clarity about what needs to be done, then the team can work in a very effective manner. And it's important to remember that time boxes are indeed product focused, not just task focused. And by focusing therefore on the product or products to be created within each time box, we can therefore prevent scope creep or creeping functionality, one of the biggest killers that blights successful projects. Now, a time box is a fixed period of time, at the end of which an objective, which is normally a deliverable or a product of some sort, has been met. Don't forget that you can use time boxes for the creation of any products, and even workshops can be run as a time box. So a time box is a well-defined process with review points plus the quality checks, or acceptance testing if you will, on the quality on each of the products that's being created within the time box. This therefore allows the iterative nature of the work, you remember we covered that in the previous module, to be controlled and to ensure that the deliverables to be produced happen on time and are fit for purpose. So as I've said, time boxes prevent the creeping functionality which is often found in iterative prototyping situations. As we covered in the previous module, we looked at the iterative nature and reminded ourselves that a time box restricts such iteration to 3 steps: investigation, refinement and consolidation. And this therefore helps stop this so-called creeping functionality and also the tendency of the development not to converge towards a working solution. Now, time boxes can occur any level, and the lowest level, that used by the solution development team, is correctly called the solution development time box. So make sure you get used to that phrase. And these are used throughout exploration and or engineering. We can also have increment time boxes, even phase time boxes and project level time boxes. We'll see how that works later in this module. To remind ourselves again about prioritization, project stakeholders must form an agreement that if at any point during the time box time is threatened, the less important features in the time box can be dropped. You'll recall from the work we've already done that must-haves, the minimum usable subset, are guaranteed to be delivered, which leaves the should-haves and could-haves for the remaining 40% of the work effort as potential candidates should they need to be dropped, if indeed the time box is threatened. Now, I showed this exact slide in a previous module, and I make no apologies for showing it twice, as it's quite an important one. So I will just take you through this a second time, and it reminds ourselves about the 5 steps within each time box and the objectives of each of these steps, starting with kick-off. Now, this is where the solution development team meet to confirm several things. First of all, the time box responsibilities of each of the team members, along with checking that they are indeed available to carry out the work that has been planned for this particular time box. This plan, of course, is the time box plan that was created prior to the start of each time box. And it would be a very good idea during the kick-off step to actually review that plan to make sure that everyone understands exactly what their responsibilities are, as well as I've said, their availability. Review the objectives of the time box in order to gain a common understanding of what must be achieved. Agree the work content and the products and the acceptance criteria for each product. Set the review points, the 3 that would normally occur at the end of investigation, refinement and consolidation steps, but there also may be some important review points, typically on the products being created, at key points during these 3 steps. In addition, any potential risks should be thoroughly analysed, including any actions that will be needed in order to manage and mitigate such risks, while making sure that the Moscow priorities have been set and agreed, and that such priorities are to be managed appropriately. The kick-off should be fairly short and should take 1 to 3 hours typically. That leads us to the investigation iteration. This is where the solution developers, along with the business ambassadors, will both investigate the detail and agree on how the requirements will be met. Depending on the nature of the time box, the way in which the products, along with their acceptance criteria, are described can be done by creating a product description for each product, although such information could be added to the prioritized requirements list against the information already specified for each product. The main purpose here, hence its title of the investigation iteration, is to understand the full detail of the time box work in order to meet its objectives. No more than 15% of the total work effort should be expended during the investigation iteration, which brings us to the refinement iteration. Now, as you can see, this is expected to consume no more than 70% of the work effort, and is clearly where the lion's share of the work takes place during a time box. The main purpose of this step is where the solution development team will actually develop and test the products to be created during this time box. And it's a good idea to start the refinement iteration step with a quick and informal planning session in order to determine which members of the team will be working on which products, and the order and sequence of such work to create the products should also be agreed. Here, factors such as the Moscow priorities for each product, the availability of specific resources, and any dependencies or constraints which would suggest the most sensible schedule of product creation. Now, since the main objective of the refinement iteration step is to create the products, it should end with a review by the business ambassadors and any other appropriate stakeholders to determine exactly what is needed to complete the remainder of the work according to the acceptance criteria. An important point is that no new work should be started from this point onwards. And what this refers to, of course, is any new products or modifications to the product descriptions or acceptance criteria should be made from this point forward. If such significant changes are being requested at this time, then it may be a clue that business representatives have not been fully involved thus far, and could be captured as an important lesson to be used on future time boxes and indeed future projects. So this suggested review at the end of refinement is used to drive the next iterative step, consolidation. This is where the actions of the refinement review are carried out, and the consolidation step is where final product testing is carried out against the acceptance criteria, including any documentation that needs to be created or filled out. Another important point is that if any products have not fully met their acceptance criteria, then such products are deemed not to have been delivered, and this product testing step should not exceed 15% of the total work effort applied to the time box. This brings us nicely to the final step, the closeout. And as you can see, similar to the kick-off meeting, it should only take 1 to 3 hours. And it's a short meeting to agree the final products of the time box that have been completed. Any incomplete must-have priorities must be escalated, and any lower priorities that have not been met will need to be replanned and considered for future time boxes, future increments, or possibly even future projects. The sign-off or acceptance is done in a formal, documented manner, and the opportunity is taken at the end of this time box to look back to see if there are any lessons that can be learned, either in terms of the development work that's been carried out or the way in which the time box was managed. And this short feedback and lesson sessions could be captured by a mini retrospective workshop. If the time box went well and all products have been accepted, this session could be very short indeed, and may even be combined with the kick-off session for the next time box if there is one. Now, I've mentioned several times that time boxes can be used at different levels, the lowest level being the solution development team level, and at the highest level the project itself could be run as a time box. I've also mentioned several times about the products that are created within each time box. These products, of course, may form the documentation, such as those we looked at during the various life cycle phases, and of course also the specialist products depending on the nature of the project.